The great hall of the Galactic Council was huge and filled with strange sounds. Hundreds of alien beings sat in their special chairs, talking in their own languages. The room was so big that it could fit 10 Earth football stadiums inside it. Bright lights hung from the ceiling like stars, and the walls were made of crystal that showed colors from every world in the galaxy. Ambassador Creedle from the Vorthan Empire stood up at the front podium. His body was made of living crystal that sparkled blue and green. He was twice as tall as any human, and his voice sounded like breaking glass when he spoke. He hit the podium with his crystal hand, making a loud, ringing sound that made everyone stop talking. The other aliens in the room looked at him. There was Commander Yara from the Stellar Federation, who was half machine and half living creature. Her metal parts glowed red, and her organic parts looked like purple skin. Next to her sat the representative from Hive Cluster 7, who looked like a giant insect with 6 arms and compound eyes that could see in all directions at once. In the back corner floated the delegate from Nebula Prime. This being had no solid body at all, but was made of glowing gas that changed colors when it talked. Near the center sat 3 robots from the machine consciousness. They were perfectly smooth and silver with glowing blue eyes that never blinked. Creedle began to speak, and his words echoed through the massive chamber. His voice was full of anger and contempt. "The humans from Earth refuse our latest demand," he announced. "They continue to spread to new worlds beyond their tiny solar system, even though we told them to stop." The insect delegate from Hive Cluster 7 started making clicking sounds with his mouth parts. This was how his species laughed. The sound was like hundreds of typewriters all working at the same time. Humans, he clicked, those soft, weak creatures who only learned to travel between stars 50 years ago. What could they possibly do to threaten any of us? Commander Yara leaned forward in her biomechanical chair. The metal parts of her body made small whirring sounds as she moved. "Our spy ships have been watching them," she said in a voice that was half electronic and half organic. "They have built colonies on 12 different worlds already. They make babies very fast, and they use up natural resources like hungry animals." The gas, being from Nebula Prime, swirled around in his floating container. His voice sounded like wind blowing through caves. "That may be true," he said, "but they have no real army. Their spaceships are crude and simple. Their weapons are primitive compared to ours. One battle fleet from any of our empires could destroy them all in a single day." The 3 robots from the machine consciousness spoke in perfect unison. Their voices were exactly the same, with no emotion at all. "We have calculated the military strength of Earth," they said together. "Their total fleet consists of approximately 300 vessels. The Vorthan Empire alone has over 4,000 ships. The probability of human victory in any conflict is 0.001%. Criddle nodded his crystal head, and the light from the ceiling made rainbow patterns across his face. He looked very pleased with himself. "You are all correct," he said. "Last month, the humans actually sent a group of diplomats here. They were led by some admiral named Li Hyun. This foolish human had the nerve to ask for equal representation in our council." More laughter filled the chamber. The idea of humans having equal say with species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years seemed completely ridiculous to everyone present. "Equal representation," called out one of the smaller alien delegates. "These humans have existed in space for less than a human lifetime. We have been traveling between stars since before their planet had intelligent life. Why should creatures who just learned to leave their home world have the same voice as civilizations that have conquered entire star systems?" Creedle spread his crystal arms wide as if he was explaining something to children. "Exactly," he said. "The Vorthan Empire has ruled 17 star systems for over 2,000 years. The crystalline collective controls mining operations on 300 worlds. The machine consciousness has built automated factories on countless planets. What have humans accomplished? Nothing." The delegate from the ancient Thexian Republic stood up slowly. This species was so old that they had been in space when most other races were still living in caves on their homeworlds. Even they found the idea of human equality amusing. "In our long history, we have seen many young species try to claim importance. Before they earned it, the humans are no different. They will learn their place or be taught it. Commander Yara activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. It showed the human colonies scattered across nearby star systems. "Look at how they spread," she said. "Like a disease, they move from world to world, taking resources and making more of themselves. If we do not stop them now, they will become a real problem in a few hundred years." But the other delegates were not worried about a few hundred years from now. They were thinking about the immediate situation, and the immediate situation looked very simple to them. "The human military consists mostly of converted civilian ships," said the insect delegate. "They have some warships, but nothing that could threaten even our smallest battle groups. Their technology is at least 50 years behind ours in every area. Energy weapons, shields faster than light travel, artificial intelligence. We are superior in everything." Criddle walked around the podium as he spoke. His crystal feet made ringing sounds on the metal floor. "The humans think they can ignore our authority because they have had a few small successes. They defeated some space pirates. They explored a few empty star systems. They built some colonies on worlds nobody else wanted. This has made them think they are important." He stopped walking and looked directly at the viewing screen that showed Earth hanging in space like a small blue marble. "That pathetic little world thinks it can challenge empires that have existed since before their sun was born. They need to learn the reality of galactic politics." The chamber filled with approving sounds from dozens of different species. Clicks and whistles and electronic beeps and grinding noises, all expressing agreement with Creddle words. "We will give them one final chance," Creddle announced. "The humans have 72 standard hours to withdraw all their colonies back to their home solar system. They must also agree to accept Galactic Council authority over all their future expansion. If they refuse, we will use force to make them comply." The vote was quick and unanimous. Every species in the chamber agreed that humanity needed to be put in its proper place. They were just another young race that had gotten too big for its britches and needed to be reminded of how the galaxy really worked. As the session ended, none of the alien representatives noticed the tiny device hidden near the ceiling. It was smaller than a human fingernail and had been recording everything said in the chamber. The device had been placed there months ago by Admiral Lee Hyon himself during his diplomatic visit. The recording was already being transmitted through secret channels. Back to Earth, where General Park Day was waiting in an underground command center beneath the city of Seoul. When she received the message, she smiled grimly and activated the emergency alert system that would wake up every human military commander on Earth and in the colonies. The aliens thought they were dealing with primitive humans who would back down when faced with superior force. They were about to learn just how wrong they could be. Admiral Kim So-ra stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Unity and watched her home planet get smaller in the main screen. The blue and white world looked peaceful from space, but she knew that billions of people were counting on her and the fleet she commanded. Around her ship, 300 vessels of different sizes were getting ready for what might be the last battle humanity would ever fight. The fleet was the largest group of human ships ever assembled in one place. There were massive battleships, as big as city blocks with armor plating that could stop nuclear weapons. Fast destroyers moved between the bigger ships like sharks swimming around whales. Cruisers and frigates and support vessels all flying together under the simple blue and white flag of United Earth. Every ship had been built in secret over the past 5 years, while the aliens thought humans were still using primitive technology. Hidden shipyards in asteroid belts and on the dark sides of moons had been working day and night to create this fleet. The best human engineers and scientists had poured their knowledge into these vessels. Kim So-ra looked at the chronometer on her command console. The Galactic Council deadline would expire in 6 hours. After that, the alien fleets would start attacking human colonies, and there would be no turning back from war. Captain Choi Min-ho turned from his sensor station and looked at the Admiral. His face was serious and a little worried. "All ships report ready, Admiral," he said. "Long-range sensors are picking up alien battle groups moving toward our outer colonies. The Vorthan Empire has at least 50 ships heading for New Sol Colony, Kim. Sora nodded, but her expression stayed calm. She had trained for this moment her entire career. Every human officer in the fleet had studied alien tactics and technology. Until they knew enemy capabilities better than the aliens knew human abilities, the bridge doors opened and Dr. Lim Yunji walked onto the command deck. She looked exhausted, because she had been working for 72 hours straight without sleep. Her hair was messy and her uniform was wrinkled, but her eyes were bright with determination and scientific excitement. "Admiral, the quantum resonance generators are online?" "Across the entire fleet," she reported. "The aliens will not know what hit them when we activate the new systems. Their sensors cannot detect the quantum fields we are generating, and their weapons cannot lock onto ships using quantum resonance technology." Kim. Sora felt a moment of satisfaction. While the Galactic Council had been busy laughing at human primitiveness, the best human scientists had been studying captured alien technology. Every crashed alien scout ship had been taken apart piece by piece. Every alien device found on human worlds had been analyzed and reverse-engineered. "What about the new engines?" the Admiral asked. Dr. Lim smiled for the first time in days. "Fully operational," she said. "We can maintain speeds that their computers think are impossible. Their targeting systems are programmed to track ships moving at normal velocities. When we engage quantum drive mode, their weapons will not be able to hit us." The Admiral allowed herself a small smile. Human engineers had not just copied alien technology, they had improved it. The quantum drives could push ships faster than anything else in the galaxy. The quantum resonance generators made ships almost invisible to alien sensors. Most importantly, the quantum field network allowed all human ships to share information instantly across any distance. "Communications patch me through to all ships," Kim Sora commanded. The bridge became quiet as every officer listened to their admiral address the fleet. Her voice was broadcast to 300 ships and 60,000 human crew members who had volunteered to fight for their species' survival. "People of Earth," she began, "today we face enemies who believe we are nothing more than upstart primitives. They think our small numbers and young civilization make us weak. They are about to discover that humans do not back down from bullies no matter how big those bullies think they are." She paused and looked out at the stars that represented everything humanity was fighting for. The right to explore, to build new homes, to raise children under alien suns, and to live free from the control of species who thought age automatically meant wisdom. "We are not just fighting for our colonies or our right to expand," she continued. "We are fighting for the principle that every intelligent species deserves respect. We are fighting against the idea that might automatically makes right. Today we show the galaxy what humans are really capable of when we work together." Across the fleet, human voices responded with determination. Captain Lee Jun-suk commanded the destroyer Courage, and he felt pride swell in his chest as he listened to the admiral's words. His ship was small compared to the alien dreadnoughts they would face, but it was fast and deadly and crewed by humans who would never surrender. Commander Park Hae-jin stood on the bridge of the science vessel, Discovery, checking her experimental weapons one final time. Her ship was not built for combat, but the human engineers had mounted new quantum torpedo launchers that could punch through any known alien shield system. Throughout the fleet, similar scenes were playing out. Captain Yu Jin-woo on the battleship Defiance reviewed tactical data about Vorthan Empire ship designs. Lieutenant Nam Soo-young and her fighter craft tested the quantum field generators that would make her invisible to alien sensors. Commander Jang Soo-jin ran final checks on the new energy weapons that fired concentrated quantum beams. Every human in the fleet knew the odds were against them. The alien forces outnumbered them by thousands to one. Individual alien ships were bigger and had been designed by civilizations with thousands of years of experience in space warfare. But every human also knew that their species had overcome impossible odds many times before. Admiral Kim Sora looked at the tactical display showing the positions of alien fleets throughout human space. The Vorthan Empire was sending battle groups to 3 different colony worlds. The Crystalline Collective had dispatched mining ships protected by heavy cruisers to claim human asteroid facilities. The machine consciousness was moving automated. Attack drones toward Earth itself. All ships prepare for quantum jump, she ordered. Destination coordinates are locked in. We jump in 60 seconds. The Unity began to vibrate as the quantum drives powered up. Around the flagship, 300 other ships were doing the same thing. Energy fields that had never existed before. In the galaxy started forming around each vessel. Dr. Lim monitored her instruments as quantum fields reached optimal levels. All ships report ready for jump, Admiral, she announced. Quantum resonance network is stable across the entire fleet. Kim Sora took one last look at Earth in the main screen. Somewhere down there, General Parkday was coordinating the defense of human space from her command center. Billions of people were trusting the fleet to protect them from aliens, who saw humans as nothing more than pests to be exterminated. Execute jump, she commanded. Space twisted around the human fleet as 300 ships disappeared into quantum space. They were heading toward their first battle with aliens who expected to face primitive human technology. Instead, they would encounter weapons and tactics that the galaxy had never seen before. The war for humanity's survival had begun. The Vorthan Empire 5th Battle Fleet hung in the darkness of space like a constellation of death and destruction. Their ships were made of living crystal that grew stronger under enemy fire. Each vessel gleamed with contained energy that could destroy planets if released all at once. The smallest Vorthan ship was 3 times larger than the biggest human battleship and carried enough firepower to level entire cities. Admiral Zexmar commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Crystal Throne. His body was made of the same living crystal as his ship's, but his was dark purple with veins of silver running through it. These silver lines glowed brighter when he was angry or excited. Right now they were pulsing with satisfaction because he expected this to be the easiest victory of his long military career. The flagship bridge was a crystal cathedral with walls that showed tactical displays in 3 dimensions. Vorthan officers moved between control stations that grew from the floor like crystal trees. Everything was beautiful and deadly at the same time, just like the Vorthan Empire itself. Any sign of the human response, Zexmar asked his tactical officer. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. Nothing, Admiral, the officer replied. Deadline passed 2 hours ago. Perhaps they are hiding behind their homeworld defensive platforms like the cowards we expected them to be. Zexmar laughed, and the sound was like crystal bells breaking. The silver veins in his body flashed bright. With amusement, as expected, he said, "When faced with real military power, these humans show their true nature. They talk brave when they think no one can hurt them, but they run and hide when real warships arrive." He turned to look at the main tactical display that showed the human colony world of New Sol hanging in space ahead of them. The planet looked peaceful with blue oceans and green continents. Small orbital stations moved around it like tiny moons. It would be simple to destroy them all and make an example that would terrify the other human colonies into immediate surrender. Prepare to advance on the colony worlds, Zexmar ordered. We will destroy their orbital facilities first, then demand the surrender of everyone on the planet's surface. When word of this reaches other human worlds, they will abandon their colonies without a fight. That was when every sensor on every Vorthan ship began screaming emergency warnings. Admiral Massive hyperspace distortions detected, the tactical officer shouted over the noise of alarms. Something big is coming out of jump space directly ahead of our formation. The main view screen filled with brilliant light as 300 human ships materialized from hyperspace in perfect formation. But something was wrong with what the Vorthan sensors were detecting. The human ships were moving at speeds that should have been impossible according to known physics. Their energy signatures showed power levels that seemed to defy the laws of science. How are they generating that much power? Demanded Zexmar. The silver lines in his crystal body were now flashing red with anger and confusion. Our intelligence, reports said their reactors, were primitive fusion devices that could barely power their life support systems, but the human ships hanging in space Before them were clearly running on something far more advanced than primitive fusion. Energy readings showed power output levels that rivaled the most sophisticated Vorthan technology. Worse, the human ships were arranged in a formation pattern that no military computer could analyze. Captain Yu Jinwoo smiled grimly from the bridge of the Earth battleship Defiance. Around him, his crew worked at stations that looked nothing like what Vorthan spies had observed on captured human vessels. These were quantum control systems that could process information faster than any alien. Computer. Fire all weapons, he ordered. Show them what human engineering can really do when we stop holding back. The space between the two fleets erupted in brilliant light and energy. But instead of the crude projectile weapons the aliens expected, the human ships unleashed focused quantum energy beams that cut through Vorthan crystal shields like they were made of paper. Quantum torpedoes invisible to alien sensors until the moment of impact began tearing apart crystalline hulls that had been thought indestructible, impossible. Zexmar snarled as he watched his ships begin to explode around him. Their weapons should not be able to penetrate our shield matrices. Our defensive systems are designed to stop any known form of energy weapon. What the Vorthan admiral did not understand was that human scientists had spent years studying every piece of alien technology they could find. Dr. Song Minjun and his research team had identified the exact frequency patterns used by every major alien shield system in the galaxy. The weapons now destroying the Vorthan fleet had been specifically designed to exploit those weaknesses. The quantum energy beams operated on frequencies that Vorthan shields could not block. The quantum torpedoes used phase-shifting technology to pass through defensive barriers before exploding inside enemy ships. Every human weapon had been built to counter specific alien defenses. Admiral, we are losing ships faster than our targeting computers can track, the tactical officer reported. His crystal body was flickering with panic colors. The human vessels are moving in impossible patterns. Our weapons cannot achieve target lock on any of their ships. Commander Jiang Sujin piloted her fighter craft Phoenix through the battle zone, performing maneuvers that would have crushed any normal pilot, but her quantum engines allowed movements that ignored traditional physics. She could accelerate, turn, and stop in ways that alien computers had never been programmed to track. Let's see how these bullies like a taste of human stubbornness, she laughed as she fired quantum missiles at a Vorthan cruiser. The missiles phased through the enemy shields and exploded inside the ship engine room. All around the battle zone, similar scenes were playing out. Human ships moved like ghosts through alien weapons fire while their own weapons found targets with perfect accuracy. The Vorthan crystal ships that had conquered 17 star systems were being systematically destroyed by vessels they had dismissed as primitive. Lieutenant Nam Su-young and her fighter squadron attacked the Vorthan flagship itself. Her small craft was no bigger than a Vorthan escape pod, but her quantum torpedoes could punch holes through the thickest crystal armor. We are not going anywhere, she transmitted to the alien ship as her weapons tore into its hull. Admiral Zexmar watched in horror as his mighty fleet began to fall apart around him. Ships that had fought in hundreds of battles were being destroyed by human weapons that seemed to come from nowhere. His flagship was taking damage that should have been impossible. How many ships have we lost? He demanded. Over half the fleet, Admiral, came the reply. The humans have lost fewer than 20 vessels. At this rate, we will be completely destroyed within the hour. The Vorthan Admiral looked at the tactical display and realized he was witnessing something that had never happened before in galactic history. A numerically inferior force was completely destroying a superior fleet using technology that no one had known existed. All ships retreat, he ordered. Emergency jump to fallback coordinates. We must report this to the Galactic Council immediately. As the surviving Vorthan ships began to flee, Admiral Kim Sora opened a communication channel that reached every alien vessel in the area. Her voice was calm but carried the authority of someone who had just proven her point in the most decisive way possible. This is Admiral Kim Sora of United Earth, she said. Tell your Galactic Council that humans do not submit to bullies. If they want peace, they can negotiate with us as equals. If they want war, they will get more of what you just experienced here today. The message would reach the council. Chambers within hours, along with tactical recordings that would shatter everything. The galaxy thought it knew about human military capabilities. The aliens had expected to crush a primitive species and instead had been handed their worst military defeat in centuries. As the last Vorthan ships disappeared into hyperspace, the human fleet began moving toward the next alien battle group. The war was just beginning, but humanity had already proven they were not the helpless primitives the galaxy believed them to be. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything that had happened in the organization's 1,000-year history. Delegates who had been casually dismissing humanity just days before now stared in complete shock at the tactical recordings playing on the chamber main screen. The images showed Vorthan Empire, ships exploding one after another while human vessels moved through the battle like deadly ghosts. "This cannot be accurate," stammered the representative from Hive Cluster 7. His 6 arms were shaking and his compound eyes were showing colors that meant extreme fear in his species. The Vorthan 5th battle fleet was completely destroyed by humans. How is this possible? Ambassador Creedle Crystal Form had lost its usual bright glow and now looked dull and gray like stone. His voice cracked with disbelief as he addressed the assembly. 947 ships lost, he said slowly. Only 53 vessels escaped to tell what happened. Admiral Zexmar flagship was completely vaporized by a single human torpedo. The chamber filled with nervous sounds as delegates tried to process information that made no sense. According to everything they thought they knew about human capabilities, clicking and whistling and electronic beeping mixed together in a symphony of confusion and growing fear. Commander Yara of the Stellar Federation leaned forward and her biomechanical parts made worried whirring sounds. "How is this possible?" she asked. "Our intelligence showed primitive human technology. Crude fusion reactors, basic projectile weapons, simple navigation systems that were barely capable of interstellar travel." Her metal eye focused on the tactical display showing human energy readings that seemed impossible. "Look at these power signatures," she said. "Their reactors are producing energy levels that rival our most advanced systems. Some of these readings are higher than anything we have in our own fleets." The machine consciousness representative spoke in his perfectly emotionless synthetic voice. "Analysis indicates our intelligence data was severely flawed," he stated. "Human technology appears to be at least 50 years more advanced than our estimates. Probability calculations must be completely recalculated." The gas-formed delegate from Nebula Prime swirled anxiously in his containment field. His colors were shifting rapidly between different shades, which meant he was experiencing something close to panic. "Look at these quantum weapons readings," he said. "We do not even have theoretical frameworks for some of these technologies. How did humans develop science that we have never seen before on Earth in the Underground Command Center beneath Seoul General Park?" Day allowed herself a moment of satisfaction as she watched the council panic discussions through their intercepted communications. The alien listening devices that humans had been secretly planting for months were now paying off invaluable intelligence. "They are finally taking us seriously," she told her staff officers who were gathered around the main tactical display. "For years we let them think we were primitive, while our best scientists worked in secret to develop weapons they could not imagine." Colonel Bay Youngman, the chief of military intelligence, nodded grimly as he studied reports from human spy networks. "Throughout the galaxy, General, we are detecting massive fleet movements across alien space," he reported. "The Crystalline Collective is mobilizing their war fleets. The machine consciousness is activating their automated battle groups. It looks like they are treating humanity as a threat to galactic order itself." Park Day had expected this reaction. "How many ships are they assembling?" she asked. "Our best estimates suggest over 10,000 vessels from 6 different alien empires," Colonel Bay replied. "They are gathering the largest military force in galactic history. They appear to be planning a war of complete extermination against humanity." Meanwhile, on the frontier world of New Seoul colonist Han Mi-young watched evacuation ships preparing for departure from the main spaceport. She had spent 5 years building a life on this world. She had established farms that fed thousands of people and raised 2 children under the light of an alien sun. The thought of abandoning everything because alien bullies demanded it made her angry. "I'm not leaving," she told the evacuation coordinator who was trying to get civilians onto the transport ships. "This is my home now. My children were born here. If the aliens want us gone, they will have to drag us away by force." Similar scenes were playing out across 12 human colony worlds. Families who had spent years building new lives were refusing to abandon everything just because the Galactic Council had decided humans were not allowed to exist outside their home. Solar system, back in the council chambers a new voice spoke up that commanded immediate attention from every delegate present. The Wise Ones were an ancient species that rarely involved themselves in galactic politics. They had been traveling between stars when most other races were still primitive creatures living in caves. When they spoke, everyone listened, perhaps. The ancient being said in a voice like distant thunder, "We have underestimated these humans. Not just in terms of military technology, but in terms of their fundamental nature. They are fighting not just for territory or resources, but for principles and ideals. Such determination makes them far more dangerous than simple military power would suggest." The chamber fell completely silent as delegates considered the implications of those words. They were not just facing a surprisingly advanced military force. They were confronting a species that refused to bow to superior numbers and treated the concept of knowing your place as a personal insult. "What do you recommend?" asked Creedle in a voice barely above a whisper. The Wise One paused for a long moment before answering. "We have 2 choices," he said finally. "Accept them as equals and negotiate a peaceful solution, or commit ourselves to a war of complete extermination. There will be no middle ground with humans. They will either be treated as equals, or they will fight until every last one of them is dead." The vote was called within the hour, and the chamber filled with tension as delegates considered their options. Some argued for negotiation, pointing out that human technology was clearly more advanced than anyone had realized. Others demanded war, claiming that allowing humans to succeed would encourage other young species to challenge galactic authority. In the end, fear won over wisdom. The decision was unanimous: humanity would be eliminated as a threat to galactic order. Every available fleet would converge on human space for one final overwhelming assault that would either destroy humanity completely or force them to surrender unconditionally. As the session ended, none of the alien delegates realized they were making the same mistake they had made before. They still did not understand what they were really facing. They thought superior numbers and overwhelming firepower would be enough to defeat a species that had already proven conventional. Thinking did not apply to them. The largest military force in galactic history began moving toward human space, carrying with it the combined might of 6 ancient empires. But they were still thinking like the same arrogant aliens who had dismissed humans as primitive. Just days before, they were about to learn that humans had more surprises waiting for them. The assembled alien armada was the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen in its billion-year history. 10,000 ships from 6 different empires hung in the void at the edge of human space like a dark cloud that blocked out the stars. Their combined firepower was capable of sterilizing entire star systems and turning planets into lifeless rocks floating in space. Every major species had contributed their finest vessels and most experienced commanders to this final solution. Vorthan Empire crystal ships gleamed with deadly energy. Crystalline collective mining vessels had been converted into massive weapons platforms. Machine consciousness automated dreadnoughts moved in perfect formation without any living crews. Aboard Stellar Federation bioships pulsed with organic weapons that could dissolve enemy hulls. Hive Cluster 7 sent swarms of small fighters that moved like angry insects. Even the ancient and normally peaceful species had sent ships to end the human threat. Admiral Torkin of the Crystalline Collective commanded the entire armada from his flagship, the Star Crusher. His body was made of living diamond that refracted light into rainbow patterns across his transparent skin. He had fought in over 300 battles during his long career and had never experienced defeat. The Star Crusher Bridge was a crystal cathedral where holographic displays showed the full extent of their overwhelming force. Every ship in the Armada was represented by a point of light, and together they formed a constellation of destruction that stretched across dozens of cubic kilometers of space. This will be the shortest war in Galactic history, Torkin said to his assembled fleet commanders. The humans have perhaps 500 ships total, while we have brought 10,000. Even if their technology is more advanced than we previously believed, simple mathematics makes victory impossible for them, his tactical officer, a being made of living metal, nodded in agreement. Admiral, our sensors detect no human fleet movements, they reported. Perhaps they have finally realized the futility of resistance and are preparing to surrender, but that assessment was completely wrong. Admiral Kim So-ra was leading the entire Earth Defense Fleet directly toward the massive alien armada at maximum speed. Every human ship that could fly was part of this final desperate gambit. Battleships and destroyers and cruisers and converted civilian vessels all flying together under the blue and white flag of United Earth. They were outnumbered 20-1 by enemies who wanted to wipe humanity from existence. Admiral Captain Choi Min-ho said quietly from his station on the Unity Bridge. The alien fleet is so large our sensors can barely map all the ships. There are more enemy vessels here than humans have ever faced in our entire history. Are you certain about this strategy? Kim So-ra nodded without taking her eyes off the approaching enemy formation. Her face was calm, but inside she felt the weight of her entire species' survival resting on the next few hours. Dr. Lim, are the special modifications ready? She asked. Dr. Lim Yoonji looked up from her science station where she had been working for days without sleep to prepare humanity's final secret weapon. Her hair was messy and her eyes were red with exhaustion, but her voice was steady with scientific confidence. All ships are equipped with the new quantum field generators, Admiral, she reported. The synchronized activation should work as designed. But we have never tested the network on this scale before. What the aliens did not know was that human scientists had made one final breakthrough that would change everything. While the galaxy's finest minds had spent thousands of years perfecting individual ship technologies, human researchers had been working on something completely different. They had developed networked consciousness that could link every human ship into a single unified fighting force. All ships, this is Admiral Kim So-ra, she broadcast across the entire fleet. Today we are not just individual vessels fighting alone against impossible odds. Today we become something that has never existed before in galactic history. We become a single organism with 500 bodies but one shared mind. Activate quantum field synchronization on my mark. Across the human fleet, experimental quantum field generators began humming to life with a sound like singing crystals. Energy fields that existed in dimensions beyond normal space started forming connections between every human ship in the Armada. Suddenly, 500 separate vessels with 60,000 individual crew members became parts of a single, distributed consciousness. The change was immediate and incredible. Every human ship captain could instantly know the position and status of every other vessel in the fleet. Every pilot could sense threats and opportunities across the entire battle zone. Every gunner could coordinate their fire with hundreds of other weapon systems. What had been 500 separate ships became a single organism with the reaction time of 60,000 human brains working together. The alien armada opened fire, first unleashing enough destructive power to crack planets and boil away oceans. Millions of energy beams and projectiles and guided missiles filled the space between the two fleets with deadly light. Any normal military force would have been completely destroyed in the first few seconds of such overwhelming firepower. But the human fleet moved like a single living creature, flowing around the incoming fire like water flowing around rocks. Every ship knew exactly where every alien weapon would strike before the aliens finished aiming. The entire fleet danced through the deadly barrage without a single shot connecting with any human vessel. How are they doing that? Demanded Admiral Torkin as he watched his overwhelming firepower miss completely. His diamond body was flashing with angry red light. It is like they know what we are going to do before we do it ourselves, Commander Wang Kyung-soo, piloting the fighter craft. Dragon felt the quantum network flowing through his consciousness like electricity through his nerves. He could sense every other pilot, every other ship captain, all of them moving together in perfect harmony with shared knowledge and instant communication. Engaging enemy flagship. He reported in a voice that was calm despite flying through a maze of deadly alien fire. His fighter was no bigger than an alien escape pod, but he moved through the battle zone like he could see the future, the synchronized human fleet began its counterattack, and the difference was immediately obvious. Instead of random weapons fire, every shot was perfectly coordinated across the entire fleet. Quantum torpedoes from dozens of ships would converge on single targets, overwhelming even the strongest alien shields. Energy beams would strike in precise sequences, with each shot weakening defenses for the next attack. Captain Lee Sun-mi commanding the battleship, Harmony watched as her ship weapons linked with 40 other vessels to focus fire on a massive, crystalline collective dreadnought. The coordinated attack punched through shields that had never been penetrated before, and reduced the enemy ship to glowing debris in seconds. Target eliminated, she reported calmly. Moving to next priority target, the impossible was happening before the eyes of 10,000 alien crews. The smaller human fleet was systematically dismantling the largest armada in galactic history. Ships that had ruled star systems for centuries were being destroyed by vessels they had dismissed as primitive just hours before. Admiral Torkin stared at his tactical displays in complete disbelief. "We have lost over 2,000 ships already," he said in a voice like breaking glass. "The humans are moving through our formations like we are standing still. How is this possible?" But his tactical officer was looking at something even more disturbing on the sensor readings. "Admiral, look at their casualties," he whispered. "In all this fighting against our 10,000 ships, they have lost fewer than 30 vessels. Their coordination is perfect. They are fighting as a single entity with the reaction time of 500 separate ships. Dr. Parkya Hyan monitoring the battle from the Seoul Command Center on Earth, allowed herself a moment of pride as she watched the quantum consciousness network perform exactly as designed. "Every human ship knows exactly where every threat is at all times," she explained to the other scientists gathered around her. "They are fighting as a single organism with the combined intelligence of every human in the fleet, the Galactic Armada. Despite its overwhelming numerical advantage, began to break apart under the coordinated human assault. Ships that had never experienced defeat were fleeing in panic as their formations collapsed. The greatest military force in galactic history was being routed by a species they had planned to exterminate. Admiral Torkin realized he was witnessing something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. "All ships retreat," he ordered. Emergency jump to fallback coordinates. "We must warn the Council that humanity is far more dangerous than anyone imagined." But Admiral Kim Sora was not finished with her message to the galaxy. "Open a channel to all alien vessels," she commanded. Her voice carried across space to every ship in the massive fleeing armada. "This is Admiral Kim Sora of United Earth. You came here to destroy us because you thought we were weak primitives who would bow to superior force. You were wrong about everything. We are not weak, and we are not primitives, and we are not going anywhere. The galaxy is big enough for all of us, but only if you are willing to share it as equals." The message would be heard across the galaxy within hours and would mark the beginning of a new era in galactic politics. 6 months after the Battle of the Edge, as historians would later name it, the Galactic Council chambers looked completely different from before. The central podium, which had once been reserved only for the oldest and most powerful species, now had a special section for representatives from United Earth. Admiral Lee Hyun sat beside beings whose civilizations were thousands of years older, but who now treated him as a complete equal. The chamber itself had been redesigned to accommodate the new reality of galactic politics, where once there had been a clear hierarchy with ancient species sitting in positions of honor and younger races Relegated to the back rows, now there were circular arrangements that gave every species equal voice regardless of age or military power. The motion to establish the Human Colonial Development Zone passes by unanimous vote, announced the session moderator in the common galactic language. Humanity is granted full colonization rights to 47 star systems with complete protection under Galactic Council Charter and the right to defend those systems with whatever military force they deem necessary. The vote had been unanimous. Not because every species loved humans, but because every species had seen what happened to fleets that tried to attack human space. The Quantum Consciousness Network had proven that humans could coordinate military responses in ways that made traditional numerical advantages meaningless. Ambassador Kretal approached Admiral Lehian after the session ended. The Vorthan crystal, being no longer carried himself with the arrogant confidence he had shown months before. His crystalline form seemed smaller somehow, and his voice had lost its commanding tone. "I must admit, Admiral," he said carefully, "we severely underestimated your species' capabilities. Your quantum consciousness network technology is completely revolutionary. No one in galactic history had ever thought to link individual ships into a collective fighting force like that." Li Haiyan smiled politely, but there was steel behind his diplomatic expression. "We learned much from studying alien technologies that we recovered from crashed ships and captured equipment, Ambassador," he replied. "But we also brought our own innovations to the process. Humans have always been good at working together when we need to survive." What he did not mention was that the Quantum Consciousness Network had applications far beyond military use. Human colonies were now linked in ways that allowed instant communication and shared knowledge across light years of space. Problems that would take other species months to solve were being addressed in days through collective human intelligence and cooperation. On the frontier world of New Soul colonist, Han Mi-young was expanding her agricultural operations again. Ships full of new colonists arrived every week, and the Galactic Council had even begun sending scientific delegations to study human farming techniques. It turned out that humans were innovative in many areas beyond warfare. "Dr. Kim," she called to the visiting xenobotanist who was examining her hybrid crop specimens, "these new food plants we developed might work on Vorthan colony worlds too. Your crystal people could increase their food production by 30% using our methods." Dr. Kim Hyrin nodded enthusiastically as she took notes on her portable computer. "The Council is very interested in human agricultural innovations," she said, "and your medical techniques for treating diseases that affect multiple species. And your educational systems that seem to produce so many creative problem solvers. It seems like our civilizations have much to learn from each other." The irony was not lost on either of them. The same species that the galaxy had dismissed as primitive was now being studied by civilizations thousands of years older who wanted to understand how humans had achieved so much in such a short time. Back on Earth, General Park Day was hosting meetings with representatives from species that had been trying to destroy humanity just months before. The underground command center beneath Seoul had been converted into a diplomatic facility where former enemies now came to learn from human military and organizational techniques. "It is remarkable," commented Commander Yara during one joint planning session. Her biomechanical parts whirred softly as she processed the information being shared. "Your species achieved in 50 years of space travel what took most of us centuries to accomplish. Not just in terms of technology, but in terms of social organization. You maintained individual creativity while achieving collective action. Most species struggle with balancing those two things." Captain Park In-soo, who now served as Earth military liaison to the Galactic Council, explained the human approach. "We learned long ago that our strength comes from diversity working together toward common goals," he said. "We do not all have to think the same way or believe the same things to fight for the same principles. Individual differences make us stronger, not weaker." The Galactic Council itself was changing in response to human influence. The old hierarchy based purely on age and military might was giving way to something more collaborative and inclusive. Species that